Kanu comply with UN directive, lawyer tells FG. Kanu comply with UN directive, lawyer tells FG. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you back again to Sparky TV channels, where we bring you news on politics, IPOB and Biafra as it hot. If this is your first time of tuning to our channels, you're highly welcome, and we urge you to stay tight as we bring you latest news and happenings across the globe today. Our news in details. A lawyer, Aloy Ejimako, who is the counsel to the detained leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, has advised the federal government to avoid any diplomatic conflict with the United Nations by releasing Kanu from detention. Ejimako noted that the UN Working Group on Arbitrary Detention is a quash judicial body that has a subsisting legal mandate of the United Nations to consider and adjudicate human rights petitions against member nations of the UN. Its rulings or decisions, diplomatically called opinions, such as was recently issued in favor of Kanu, are legally binding on Nigeria on merit grounds, including the fact that the decision is based on the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, both of which Nigeria ratified several decades ago, he warned. According to him, ratification is a means by which a nation makes itself subject to international laws and treaties, and by the provisions of Section 12 of the Nigerian Constitution and of decision by the Supreme Court of Nigeria, ratification makes Nigeria subject to whatever it ratified. It needs to be made clear that the UN Working Group is an integral arm of the United Nations Human Rights Council, which has the broader UN mandate to determine human rights issues emanating from member nations of the UN. It goes without saying, therefore, that as a member of the United Nations, Nigeria is subject to decision issued from these UN bodies, he stated. The UN body recently considered Kanu's matter and held that the removal of Kanu from Kenya amounted to extraordinary rendition. In clarification, the body further held that Kanu's arrest and transfer to Nigeria lacked a legal basis and due process of law, in violation of Article 9 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and Article 9 of the Covenant. In its conclusions, the UN body held that the appropriate remedy would be for the government of Nigeria to release Mr. Kanu immediately and accord him an enforceable right to compensation in accordance with international law. Barrister Ejimako advised, without more, Nigeria is duty-bound to implement these decisions in its letters and spirit, and it is expected to do so promptly and to, within 6 months, file a formal report of its implementations with the United Nations. Unarguably failing to implement this decision will mean that Nigeria is thumping its nose at the United Nations and potentially triggering a nasty diplomatic conflict that could make it a peripheral state. Here, the lawyer to the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, have stated that Nigeria is duty bound to implement all the decisions of the UN Human Rights Group based on the release and the directive which they have issued to Nigerian government to release Nnamdi Kanu. So the UN Working Group on Arbitrary Detention has also mandated with immediate effect within 6 months that the Nigerian government should release Nnamdi Kanu. Its rulings or decisions such as diplomatically called opinion, such as rather was recently issued in favor of Kanu, are legally binding on Nigeria on several grounds, which includes the fact that the decision is based on the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, both of which Nigeria ratified several decades ago. So he has warned that Nigeria should no way thwart this directive given by the United Nations. So according to him, ratification is a means by which a nation makes itself subject to international laws and treaties, and by the provisions of that section 12 of the Nigerian Constitution, which decision by the Supreme Court of Nigeria ratification makes Nigeria subject to whatever it ratified. So as a matter of fact, this country is duty bound to obey the ratification and subject to whatever they have decision they have taken to become part of UN. So they are duty bound to enforce the directive of UN given to them on Nnamdi Kanu's release. So it needs to be made clear that the UN Working Group is an integral arm of the United Nations Human Rights Council, which has the broader UN mandate to determine human rights issues emanating from member nations of the UN. So it goes without saying, therefore, that as a member of the United Nations, Nigeria is subject to decisions issuing from these UN bodies. So as a matter of fact, the UN body has recently considered Kanu's matter and held that the removal of Kanu from Kenya, which amounted to extraordinary rendition, in ratification, the body further held that Kanu's arrest and transfer to Nigeria lacked a legal basis and due process of law in violation of the Article 9 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and Article 9 of the Covenant. So the UN body have heard that the appropriate remedy would be for the Nigerian government to release Mr. Nnamdi Kanu immediately and accord him an enforceable right toward compensation in accordance with the international law. So failure to which Barrister Jako has advised without more that Nigeria is duty bound to implement this decision in its letters and spirit, and it is expected to do so promptly and to within 6 months file a formal report of its implementation with the United Nations. So unarguably failing to implement this decision would lead or mean that Nigeria is playing with fire at the United Nations, and their potential triggering, which will potentially trigger a nasty diplomatic conflict that could make it a very dangerous situation for Nigeria. So ladies and gentlemen, let me get your opinion on this. Barrister Jumafo has also broken the consequences that Nigeria may face should they ignore the decisions of a directive and their decision of the mandate of the United Nations on the release of Nnamdi Kanu. So in as much as they have ratified to be a member of UN, so by the Supreme Court of Nigeria, whatever decision the UN or directive the UN has given concerning on the human right abuse and enforceable of Nnamdi Kanu's right has to be followed. So Nigeria have to release this young man so that he will gain his freedom. So if there's any other further court proceedings, he will be from either from the Coronational Center or from his apartment coming to court whenever the case is supposed to be heard in court. So the UN has given their directive, and Ejimako has also directed and also advised Nigeria on what to do. So ladies and gentlemen, let me get your opinion on that. As you do so, may God bless you. Do not forget to subscribe to Sparky TV channel, our YouTube channel. Stay tuned for more news coming to you from Sparky TV channel. Do have a wonderful day and time.